Hello and welcome to another installment of Liberty Nation's Swamponomics videocast. I'm Andrew Moran, Ellen's economics correspondent. Each week, I dive into the morass of top economic news stories and fish out compelling narratives, or I retrieve fallacies that have been accepted as conventional wisdom by the swamp creatures for years. This week, will 2022 be the year of a debt crisis? 2020 was the year of a public health crisis. 2021 was the year of an inflationary crisis. Will 2022 be the year of a debt calamity? The Federal Reserve recently completed its December Federal Open Market Committee policy meeting, where it announced plans to accelerate the tapering of its pandemic-era quantitative easing program in March. The dot plots also showed that the central bank could raise interest rates 3 times next year. It will be a juggling act for the Eccles building, since the century-old institution will need to fight 30-year high inflation without threatening economic growth or the labor recovery. While this could slow the excess of capital flooding the economy, something that heightened demand for too few goods, it might not bode well for indebted businesses, consumers, and governments. In November, the Fed published its Financial Stability Report, in which it highlighted some vulnerabilities in the economy, including business debt. Since the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic, corporate debt has climbed more than $1.3 trillion. This is in addition to, during the same period, US household debt rising about $1 trillion and the US government debt surging roughly $2 trillion. The consequences of this debt accumulating in a rising rate environment is pecuniary destruction. For companies, many of whom have had to rely on borrowing to survive, it could result in bankruptcy. For consumers, it could rely on further tapping of credit to keep their heads above water. For governments, it might require merely taxing, borrowing, and printing even more, which is the government's way. Meanwhile, one of the most key developments that the financial markets will be monitoring over the next 12 months will be zombie companies. These are businesses that do not generate enough revenues or cash flow to service their debt. When borrowing costs climb, they become more vulnerable. Today, there are approximately 700 of these types of firms trading on the Russell 3000 index. Another factor is that according to Moody's Analytics, the average credit rating of these zombie firms has been declining. Torsten Slok, the chief economist at Apollo Global Management, recently made a terrific point. Quote, "The economy is more vulnerable than it has ever been before to rising interest rates. How much can the Fed raise rates? And the answer is they can actually not raise rates that much." Indeed, the zombie threat, be it in the United States or China, had been real before the coronavirus pandemic. So, will the Fed move incrementally on interest rates? Considering how indebted the country and the markets have become over the last 2 years, rates might need to only go up by 10 basis points there and 15 basis points here. The politicians, the zombies, institutional investors, armchair traders, and consumers might go into shock when the Federal Reserve gradually removes the spiked punch bowl after feasting on trillions of dollars in newly created and cheap money. Interestingly enough, the zombie businesses that somehow survived the destruction and decay in 2020 have enjoyed remarkable growth, going from $2 trillion in 2019 to $6 trillion in aggregate value today. This is what happens when the world's most powerful institution injects trillions of dollars into veins of occupants residing on Main Street and Wall Street. That's it for me this week. Please read my full Swamponomics column where I discuss Elon Musk versus Senator Karen, the Powell Putsch Redux, and Kramer versus Kramer. Thank you.
We're doing it for real, really real. Liberty Nation.
And Jeff Charles, contributor for LibertyNation.com.
I think we're starting to make an impact. Liberty style, fight for freedom.
Daily tracking poll sponsored by Liberty Nation for Thursday.
Mentioned by Dan Bongino, Rasmussen, Jordan Peterson, and
I
others.
can do it again if you want me to.
Cited in Mark Levin's American Marxism.
I think we're starting to make a really big impact. Get noticed. We're doing it. Rock on. I'm gone.